Welcome. Full house. Thank you for your patience. It's full house today, but it's all good. My name is Patty Bluth. I am the director of the Jenkins Center for Student Success. So if you have not been there yet, if you are a student, as you are, of the College of Liberal Arts, make your way over to Sparks 138, 139, and you're going to find a space where you can study, hang out with your friends, and learn about resources of the college. So I want to make you aware of that. And today we are gathered to hear the first year lecture, which is an annual tradition, and they'll kind of
my name is Kevin Conaway. I'm the director of the Office of Digital Pedagogies and Scholarship and Initiatives. And we just had a name change, so I used the old name. Sorry about that. And the reason I'm here is we support a number of events like First Year Lecture, like the college theme, like First Year Engagement. And so the First Year Lecture is really a chance for first year students to learn more about the liberal arts and the importance of the liberal arts in tackling issues of today and how the many disciplines, the 18 disciplines within our college, are able to really work together to tackle modern issues. So Patty and I are both thrilled to have Dr. Laurel Pearson here with us today. She is in our anthropology department. She's an assistant teaching professor. And she is also, which we are very excited about, she is the lead committee person for the education committee on the Sustainability Council. It's really integral to developing the theme that the college is doing this academic year and next, which is moments of change, creating a livable planet, which we know is important. We've talked a lot to the students, and they feel that's an important issue. And we feel it is too, so we're really thrilled that we're all going to be here with us today. And without much further ado, I think we're going to have Laurel, Dr. Pearson, give us a talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you. I am in the Department of Anthropology, and when they asked me to give this lecture, I was like, but my research isn't sustainability. But what I'm hoping you'll see today is that anthropology is directly tied to sustainability, and that you, as students, have a role to play in sustainability at Penn State and beyond. I am also in the Sustainability Council here for the college, so we formed a couple of years ago more formally, and I'm on the education subcommittee. So we're actually really interested in what you're thinking about sustainability. So before I get started, I want to encourage you, if you receive a survey, so at the end of this academic year, we usually have a survey that goes out to some number of people within liberal arts. We try to get a kind of wide smattering. If you get that survey, we'd really appreciate it if you would fill it out and send it back, because we're curious about your interactions with sustainability in your coursework at Penn State, specifically in the liberal arts, and what you're hoping to see in terms of new courses, okay? Okay, so what is sustainability? If I ask you what sustainability is, what comes to mind? What does sustainability mean to you? Anyone? Yeah. Environmental protection. What else? Does everyone think of the environment when they think about sustainability? Yeah.
Reducing waste.
Reducing waste. Yes.
Clean water.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Clean water.
Clean water. What else? Does anyone think about stuff outside of the environment? Yeah.
Improving all living situations.
Improving all living situations. That's a great one. What else? Yeah.
Long-term goals.
Long-term goals. Yes.
Long-term goals of just maintaining like the living standards of food, community, whatever.
Excellent.
That we're currently experiencing.
Right, so continuing to have standards of livability, right? So having things like access to food, clean water, medical care, all those things actually tie into sustainability. So I think we often think about sustainability in terms of the environment, but that's just one piece, right? And so hopefully today we'll get a chance to talk about a variety of different things that come to mind when we think about sustainability. And I want you to consider the role that you have to play. And what I'm hoping you'll see is that there are communities that you are part of that are important to you, right? And trying to sustain those communities is partially your role, right? And so that's where anthropology comes into play here. So in terms of sustainability, Penn State adopted this definition. So they say sustainability is the simultaneous pursuit of human health and happiness environmental quality, and economic well-being for current and future generations. So this encompasses a lot of things, right? It's encompassing the environment, human health and happiness, the economy, right? And we're talking about now and in the future. And so these are all things that liberal arts also is really interested in, right? Health, the environment, economics, right? All those things come into play when you're in a liberal arts environment. And so we'll talk more about that later. So has anyone seen these? Yeah, what are they? Some of you saw them today if you're in my first year seminar class, yes.
They're the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Excellent, right? And so these were adopted in 2015. And these give us sort of a blueprint for what they call a blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and in the future. Do you notice any sort of themes to these goals if you look at them? Are there some that sort of cluster together? Yes. Yeah, they're all related to sustainability, but do you notice that there within that there's some other some clusters?
Sustainability of ecosystems.
Ecosystems, yeah, what were you going to say?
Making life better for not just people, but animals and plants.
Yeah, so for the environment around us, right? And for people. Yeah.
Community building?
Community building. So these are all great things. And so in fact, we can sort of create this Venn diagram and think about the overlap and the intersection of all of these goals, right? So some of them fit into this sort of pillar of people, right? So thinking about things like food security, education, gender equity, right? Those things fit into things like people. Then the environment or planet, right? So protecting those natural resources, the water, the air quality, things like that. And then things like prosperity, so things like economic growth. And we can see that they're all interconnected, right? They're not completely independent of each other. So these goals all have one sort of theme, right? Which is to try to have a better outcome for people, both today and in the future. So thinking along these lines, I want to suggest to you that anthropology has a major role to play in thinking about sustainability. So what is anthropology? Is it dinosaurs? So what's dinosaurs? It's paleontology, I think, right? Is it bugs? People tell me a lot that I must study bugs. That's entomology, not anthropology, right? Is it rocks? Not really, right? Fossils are rocks, kind of, right? But rocks would be geology. So what is anthropology? Someone over here has their hand up.
It's basically the study of like human development, from like archaeology without the artifacts.
Yeah, so it has to do with people. So anthropology is just the study of what makes us human. Okay, so that's a big overarching statement, but this actually comes from the American Anthropological Association. So anthropology, at least in terms of how we conceptualize it, is everything that is human, from our biology to our evolution, right? So we are primates. Sorry, spoiler alert. So we evolved, right, into humans. So that whole evolutionary process, the things that we're still going through to adapt to our environment, both physically, biologically, and also culturally. And then also thinking about the human past, right? So you mentioned archaeology. Well, Penn State, this is from our website, we actually have this nice Venn diagram thinking about all of the different sort of subfields of anthropology and how they overlap, but all of them are related to people, all right? Okay, so where does this all begin? What makes us people? What is that? Has anyone seen this picture before? Yeah. It's not an atom. What are we looking at there? Yeah. Earth. So this is the pale blue dot. Has anyone seen this before? So this picture was taken from the Voyager 1 spacecraft back in 1990. So it's the furthest photo that had ever been taken of Earth. And it kind of puts it into perspective, right? Out there in a bunch of space, there we are, this tiny, tiny, tiny blue dot, right? And everything human that has ever happened on this little tiny pale blue dot, right? So Carl Sagan, who was an astrophysicist, an astronomer, an author, he was very interested in getting the public engaged in science. Has anyone heard of Carl Sagan? Hopefully. Yeah, so Carl Sagan wrote a book about the pale blue dot. And he said, this quote, he says, "There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known." And right now, it's the only home we can know, right? We can't go anywhere else right now. So we have a responsibility to take care of this tiny dot, right? This dot that all of us are inhabiting, that we all evolved on. So thinking about that evolution and anthropology and all of these things, we, as humans, share ancestry with primates, right? And we share ancestry, what's our closest living relative? Chimpanzees. I kind of gave it away up here, but in fact, we share a common ancestor with chimps around 6 to 7 million years ago. Okay, so that's actually not that long ago, right? How old is this planet? Yeah.
About 4 billion years.
Yeah, over 4 billion years old, right? So it's pretty recent, right, that we share a common ancestor with chimpanzees. We don't evolve from chimps, okay? We are our own separate branch of evolutionary history. Let's not make the chimps feel bad. They have their own evolutionary history too. So we share a common ancestor with chimps about 6 to 7 million years ago. We know this based on things like genetic data and fossil data. And in that evolutionary history, it's only in the last 200,000 years ago or so that Homo sapiens evolved. Okay, so we have lots of hominin ancestors, lots of ancestors along this evolutionary tree, right, that are all extinct. We're the only ones left, except for a lot of us are carrying around a little bit of Neanderthal, but that's another story for a different day. Okay, so 200,000 years ago in Africa, we evolve. And over that time, since we evolved 200,000 years ago, we've been on this major journey, right? We've gone all over the place, and we've encountered an enormous number of environments, and we have been moving, and all this time, in spite of the fact that we've moved to all these different places all over the place, and that's contributed to a lot of the differences that we see in people when we look around, right? That adaptation to different environments, those periods of time where populations were small and potentially isolated for long periods, but we're all the same species, right? We're all Homo sapiens, and we're all connected, and we're all connected back to 200,000 years ago in Africa, okay? What helps us in terms of being human to deal with all of these environments is our incredible adaptability. So we have lots of evidence that we are sort of the ultimate adapters as a species, which is one of the reasons that we've been so incredibly successful and why there's so many of us around, right? So we have actually weathered a lot of changes in the environment in our evolutionary past. So one thing that we have thought, or that some people think, is that a lot of important things have happened in our evolutionary history when the environment has been the most sort of unstable. So we actually have seen that there's some big changes in things like brain size. This would be predating humans, but in our hominin ancestry when the climate was fluctuating a lot. We also know that when the climate changed from the Pleistocene, which is that period of time, that geological epoch when we had all those periods of glaciation where there was not a lot of consistency to the climate, when we shifted from that into a period of relative stability, that is the Holocene, what we've been living in, we took great advantage of that. And so during that time frame, we generated lots of domesticated plants and animals. So the environment becomes more stable, and we start to exploit that and start to settle down. So a lot of human groups move away from hunting and gathering and start living a more sedentary lifestyle, and this allows our populations to start expanding. But this is all ingenuity on the part of humans. And so this is happening all over the world simultaneously. So this is all within the last 10 to 12,000 years. Okay, so how long have we been around? Since 200,000 years ago. And we've been kind of all over the place since about 70,000 years ago, and even more recently than that. And just within the last 10,000 years or so, we've made a ton of changes that make our existence as these larger populations possible. And what is the way that we are able to do this so successfully? Well, all organisms interact with their environment, right? So the environment's shaping them, but in many cases, organisms are shaping the environment. What other animals shape the environment besides humans? Yeah. Birds, right? They nest. They might take things from the environment and move them around. Yeah. Bees. Yeah. Fungi. Beavers, right? All kinds of things adapt the environment around them, but we are the ultimate constructors of our environment. So we adapt to our environment, but we've also adapted the environment to us, and we do that through culture, right? And so we've done things like create tools and clothing and fire. We've done things like domesticated animals and plants, created agriculture, shelter, and even vaccination, right? And all of these things have allowed us to thrive, right? So we don't exist without culture. But since that time, 10,000 years ago, and actually only relatively recently, our population has exploded, right? We have been able to shape the environment to suit us, but the environment is now going to suffer from all of the rapid population growth and the things that we're taking and doing to our environment. So you can see this very rapid expansion of human populations that's only been within the last couple centuries. So what has caused these massive expansions of population? Yeah.
Modern
Medicine. Extending human lives has been huge, right? We don't have the level of early death that we had in the past, even though now we don't necessarily have as much of a birth rate as we've had in the past. Our population is growing a little bit less quickly than it was, but it's still growing very, very rapidly, right? So our population is expanding, and we also know that we're having an impact on our environment. So we're seeing things like greenhouse gases, so things like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane. These are huge contributors to the warming of our planet, right? These gases are really significant, and you can see that since the 1800s, they've been on a trajectory, or since the Industrial Revolution, really, they're on this trajectory upward. And many of these things are things that we are contributing. How do we get the carbon dioxide into the environment? Things like burning fossil fuels, right? How are we getting the methane into the environment? By extracting fossil fuels from the environment, by having huge feedlots of cattle, right? All of those things are influencing the warming that we're experiencing in our environment. And today, we're all incredibly connected, right? So in the past, we wouldn't have had a lot of knowledge of what's going on elsewhere, and we're able to connect with each other so much more readily just in the last 50 to 100 years than we could have in the past. So imagining all the things that you like in your day-to-day life? What are the things that you like? And where did they come from? And how does having the things that you have impact other people and impact the environment? Right? So I brought this orange. This orange was sitting on my desk. And I was thinking about it because my daughter, I call her a fruit bat, because she's just constantly eating fruit and she wants berries at all times of the year, right? What is the impact of this orange? Where was this orange domesticated? I actually looked this up today. China, or Asia, and around 7,000 years ago, okay? But the fact that I can have this orange anytime I want, what does that take? It takes this orange being grown. This orange, you know where it was from? Chile. So my orange came from Chile, but how did it get to me? Somebody grew it, right? Somebody picked it, somebody packed it, put it on a truck, put it on a boat, maybe, put it on another truck, took it to the grocery store. Those people put it out on the shelf and I bought it, right? So what was involved in that? Fertilizers, fuel, people hours, all kinds of things. And this is just a silly orange, right? What does it take to get this? Your phone. Holy cow, right? All the stuff that's in your phone, all the pieces, all the people, all the technology, all that stuff, right, is only possible because of this interconnection of humans. Well, all the stuff that we're doing is having an impact. So we take for granted that we live in a highly industrialized country, right? That we are taking and taking and taking and taking, and it's impacting other people and the planet. So this summer, I had the opportunity to go to the village of Anukjuwak. Anukjuwak is up here on the Hudson. You can see we're down here, right? So it's way up here. And up in Anukjuwak, this community is experiencing great climate change. This is an Inuit community of about 1,800 people. You may have heard of the film Nanook of the North. Probably not, but it's actually the very, very first documentary film that was ever made. And this film brought this community to the world. And this was 100 years ago this summer that this film came out. When it did, these people were living a very traditional life. They didn't make a single impact on the environment other than taking what they could use. And so did they create garbage? Not really. They used all parts of the animals that they were consuming. They had no real carbon footprint. Now, in the past, this community was nomadic, right? They moved around in the environment. They were actually much smaller in population size, and they would move seasonally. But now they've been settled. And so they've been in this settlement since about the 1940s, and now they are actually really heavily dependent on a lot of things being brought to them. So they do, in fact, now have a pretty large carbon footprint. Their whole town is run on diesel generators, so there is a lot of fossil fuel coming into the community. But the leader of the community said, there was a big celebration for the 100-year anniversary of this film. He said, you know, in the past, we relied on nothing but the environment. We took what we needed and we didn't leave any trace, right? But now we're so dependent. And also, they're experiencing really significant climate change because the areas of the world that are most impacted by warming are those in the Arctic region. So nearly twice as fast the warming's happening there, and it's having a really large impact on their lives. So my husband is actually doing this study to talk to the community about the 100 years since the original film was made and the impact that the changes in the environment are having, and the fact that their culture has changed because they're now settled on their way of life. And so you can imagine that if the climate's changing, they might not have the ability to do all of the traditional hunting that they want to do, right? They might not have access to some of the resources that they want. This is having a major impact on their culture. So this is from this summer. So I got to go up this week. I was not there that week. I was packing stuff, thinking that we were going to go up, and it was going to require my daughter to have her snowsuit and her snow boots and all the things. And my husband called me and said, hey, something's happening, everything's melting. And it all happened in a week. This usually takes a month to happen or more. And this year was the fastest melt that's ever happened. So they went from effectively winter, sub-freezing temperatures, to when I got there a week later, that 1 week later, everything had melted. And the second day I was there, it was hotter there than it was here. It was 80 degrees there, right? So they're experiencing this exacerbation of the climate change in that region. So from this, I'd like you to think about community, okay? So what communities are you part of? You're now part of the Penn State community, right? You're all students. You have some sort of hometown community, and now you're also probably becoming part of the State College community, right? Maybe you're part of some national community, right? You're an American or a citizen of another country. And all of those communities are probably really important to you to some degree. And there are probably many more communities that you can think of that you're part of, right? Clubs or religious organizations or sports, right? Those types of things that you might consider a community around you. Even your dorm, right? Might be a community, or your roommates. But we're also all part of this big global community too. And we have the ability to do something, right, in terms of thinking about sustainability. And hopefully we're motivated by the communities that we're in. Not just the communities that we immediately are in, but as members of our global community, right? And so I invite you to be part of your community. So one way you can do that is to get involved, right? Get involved in your community. And so it might feel like you don't have a lot to contribute in terms of sustainability because you're one person, but you do, right? You can make a difference. You can make some little changes. You can become involved, and you can act, right? You can do things like vote, right? Those things are going to be really important. But you're also part of the College of Liberal Arts here at Penn State. And I would encourage you to get involved as a student in things that are happening in the college. You have the opportunity to take a whole bunch of different classes that will all have ideas about sustainability. So I just told you the story of anthropology and sustainability. Clearly, anthropology has a role in sustainability, in these conversations around sustainability, but all of these different disciplines within the college, be they social science, be they humanities, or even languages, are gonna have something to say about sustainability. I hope what you will find too is that you can draw connections. That's one of the most amazing things I think about a liberal arts education, and one of the things that drew me to it as an undergrad, taking anthropology classes, was just, I could see the connections really clearly that were being made by my liberal arts classes to everything else. Even a math class, right? Even physics, right? They all tied in to all of these very holistic classes within the liberal arts. You also can go online and check out our website. So we just launched the sustainability website for the College of the Liberal Arts last year. So just at sustainability.la.psu.edu. And here there are lots of things for you to take a look at. One is you can go to the education tab. So if you're interested in sustainability, under the education tab, there are lists of things like classes within the liberal arts that have themes around sustainability, or that have a focus within the course on sustainability. We also link you to the sustainability minor. So there's a minor that you can get at Penn State, not within liberal arts, but that does incorporate courses within the liberal arts for sustainability. We also have this Get Involved tab. So what are some things that you can do to get involved related to sustainability? Are any of you already involved in stuff? Yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, you were wondering if anybody is already involved.
Oh, yeah, what are you involved in?
I'm an eco rep.
Oh, you're an eco rep. Awesome. So, sorry, tell them.
Read our publications in the bathroom.
Yeah, so eco reps, we had the opportunity in my first year seminar class today to have a representative from, or representatives from eco reps come and talk about the things that they're doing, including putting those little flyers in the stalls in the bathrooms about the different events that they're doing. But eco reps is just one organization. There are lots of clubs on campus. Has anyone heard about the student farm? Yeah. Those things are all tied in to sustainability at Penn State. You can do simple stuff too. What are some simple things you can do? Yeah. Recycle. If you recycle stuff, make sure you don't put your garbage in the recycling because they won't take the recycling if there's garbage in there. Please don't put garbage in the recycling. What else? There's composting, lots of composting happening at Penn State. And you can make a difference. So, you know, if you see something that you think could be improved, let us know. Talk to someone about it, okay? Because you have a voice too. You're part of this community. There are also ways to get involved outside of campus. So lots of different organizations that are related to sustainability within the State College area, within the county area. So I would encourage you to consider those as well. All kinds of links out to that type of stuff is available at that Get Involved tab. So I would encourage you to make a plan and do something, right? And maybe it's just something that you think will have an impact on your small community, your community of friends, your community of Penn State friends, the State College area, your hometown, right? But you can make a difference, and I encourage you to act. And also to stay tuned because over the next 2 years, we will be moving into this theme, Moments of Change, Creating a Livable Planet. So the college has adopted this theme, and there will be lots of different things that come out of it. So they're hoping to engage not just students and faculty, but staff and even alumni in the theme. There'll be courses that are going to be developed out of this. There will be all kinds of events and talks and presentations that you can participate in. So I would encourage you to keep listening for those and taking advantage of that. You could very well get involved in some of the things that are happening with the theme. So I'd encourage you to do that. With that, I will say thank you, and I will take any questions that you might have.